Um,
So as I say, some of them started at 5.
so they would mainly be farming families, I presume.
And diplomats who travelled overseas
Okay.
and whatnot. But yeah, there were quite a lot of Western District boys there. The Korean War was a very cold country up there, and the only way of keeping warm was to have woolen clothes, and there were no synthetics, of course. And so there was this huge boom in wool, a pound they were getting for wool, and that was big money. And so these Western District people, including Len Bird, made a lot of money. And that's why Laurie went down to the Hermitage and Graham went to Geelong Grammar School. And there were lots of Western District people who, there were obvious families like the Chernsides and the Manifolds who would have been there anyway, but a lot more that were a bit marginal, but suddenly the wool boom changed it all.
Yeah. And what about John Mann? Was one of your good mates?
Johnny
down
Mann
there?
was a great mate. Yeah, he was very good to me. He asked me if I wanted to come up to Bri for a week during or the Easter holidays, because I didn't go home at Easter. If I didn't go to Bri, I'd go down to Uncle Eric down at Balnarring. But the short breaks just didn't go. It was
Too far.
flying up took all day and cost a lot of money. And so yes, yeah, Johnny Mann was a short, nuggety fella who was a very determined bloke. He became cox of not only this Geelong Grammar crew, but the Cambridge crew, and got them to pull the oars pretty hard. Terrific bloke, I thought. Had a lovely laugh, and they had nice horses on. Brian used to ride the horses around and shoot a few rabbits with 22s, and yeah, it was really good.
So that would be pretty adventurous sort of time, going to stay with
I
the
loved
Manns.
it, of course, it was terrific. Audrey Mann, John's mother, was a bit of a challenge. She was a pretty tough lady too. She had the same build as John and the same outlook, I think, as get things done. And if you crossed Audrey, you're in real trouble. Ian Mann was a very subdued fellow. I think Audrey had subdued him pretty well. The Manns had a property which Johnny Mann eventually took over. Tommy Mann was Ian Mann's brother. He was a very grumpy old fella who didn't marry. And he lived on his own in this mansion house, which gradually fell down around him. Didn't spend any money on it. And he had a housekeeper with whom he had very few words. And she gave him breakfast one day, and he looked up from the paper and said, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to England. I'll be away for a while."
Right.
So that was John's uncle. No, Johnny was a really nice bloke. Quite light. That's what a small bloke, so that's why he was cox of the crew.
And what about Derek Stevens and their family? Because obviously you went from Geelong Grammar to stay with them and Nugget on
Yeah, I stayed with them
several occasions. Yeah.
on several occasions. The Stevens were very good to me. Nugget and Jean, Derek's mother. We used to come up in a football team. We'd come up to Melbourne to play Wesley or Scotch or wherever, and we'd be allowed to stay out till 7:30 or something before the bus left. And so Jean would always cook us a roast leg of lamb, beautiful. And so we'd have a feed there, and then they'd drop us off at the bus. But yeah, she was a sort of foster mother to me, really. She was very nice to me.
So I remember them having a little poodle dog that was very smart, and we went to
Yeah,
visit
they had
them
a
once.
snappy little dog. I don't remember too much about the dog.
That was very much later on.
I don't know whether it was a poodle. Was it a poodle?
Yeah, there was a poodle there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Now-
yeah, Derek and well, they were really good to me.
And he's obviously still a very good mate now. It was good to see him down at South Yarra this week, and yeah,
Yeah,
he's in very good nick.
he's in good nick. He and Reese Burgess, who's also he's a retired pharmacist who doesn't take any tablets of any sort.
Right.
Not very good for the business.
He knows what they do.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. Yeah, so yeah, they're good mates from Corio.
And what about Uncle Eric? Because you used to stay with him a lot also, as you
Yeah, well,
mentioned.
he was a very nice man, really charming, tall and thin and fit-looking, quite unlike my father, who was short and stubby and had a bit of a belly. But Eric was easygoing, and he bought and sold farms around the Mornington Peninsula.
So did he go to Melbourne Grammar as well? Uncle Eric?
I don't know where he went to school. Don't know. I suppose he did, but I don't know.
Right. Because he was here in Melbourne, obviously.
Yes, he was. He eventually became CEO of Mittens. Mittens was a business in South Melbourne that made things. We've been aware of lots of businesses that made things. They made cutlery, and he ran that.
Wasn't Noel Rundle the accountant for Mittens? Is that right?
I don't think so.
Right.
I've never heard that.
Okay. Well, he was the accountant for
He was accountant for me.
similar sort of business in South Melbourne, a manufacturing business in South Melbourne. I know that for sure because I met a guy who
Oh, okay.
he had Noel as their accountant.
Oh, well, Noel did my books for a while too. I don't think the timing would be right for that. See, Noel left Geelong Grammar School about 1948. Oh, well, he could easily have been. I don't know.
Right. And so what was the motivator for you to become a doctor? Was it about following in Reeves' shoes? Or?
Well, yes. We weren't given much education on what your opportunities were. And I really didn't know anything about the universities. And I didn't know what the range of opportunities were. Derek and Mike Tinsley and others did commerce, but because they were sort of more connected with commerce, I could have probably should have done commerce, but I didn't. Melbourne medicine was a pretty tough course, and it kept me pretty busy. I was sort of stretched a bit. I wasn't comfortable with it. I didn't just bounce through it all. I had to work very hard. Well, most of us did, to get on top of it all.
I remember hearing a story about my friend Andrew Morikov, and he's sitting in front of the TV with his friend over there with his textbooks on his lap, and he had a neuroscience exam the next day, and his friend said to him, "Aren't you supposed to be studying?" And he said, "I'm studying." And sure enough went on to blitz the exam, so he was the...
Well, some people could do that.
He is the opposite
we had
extreme.
a fellow called John Freeman that I shared a study with in Trinity College, and I shared the study. I just knew how much work he did, and he hardly went to any lectures. He read the textbooks, and that was it.
That was enough.
That was enough.
Yeah.
Huge IQ. Huge ability to remember things too.
Yeah, that's what Maury has too.
But no, I found the going a bit tougher than that.
And what about the time studying in Cambridge? What sort of inspired this move?
Oh, well...
what prompted this move?
I went to Edinburgh first, spent some time at Edinburgh, and a fellow from Brisbane...
Why did you go to Edinburgh?
Well, I went to England with no idea how I was going. I wanted to do medicine. I wanted to do ear, nose and throat surgery at that stage, but I had no idea how to go about it. I first of all went to the Ioneer Hospital here, and the medical director there said, "No, don't come here. If you really want to get trained properly, go to England. Too early for America. America wouldn't let you in." So I went to London, and I had to get my first part. And so I studied at the College of Surgeons, and 6 months later sat that exam and passed it to my surprise. And that then meant you had the opportunity to apply for registrar's jobs in England and elsewhere. But in the meanwhile, I had to earn a bit of money for us to live on, and so one of the things I did was to look at prospective migrants, English people who want to immigrate to Australia, in Australia House. They had a sort of clinic up there on the top floor, and these people would come in and you did a few tests and made sure that they were in reasonable health, that didn't have TB or, a missing leg, or, it was very simple, but you just had to make sure they were sort of dinkum immigrants and the country needed them. And so I did one of these sessions, and I was coming down the lift, and a guy heard me talking to someone, and he said, "You sounds like an Aussie to me." And I said, "I am an Aussie." He said, "Well, I am too. I'm Bill Coman, and I'm doing the final year of ENT training at St Thomas's Hospital. I'll be going back to Australia at the end of the year." And he's a Brisbane guy, and he set up practice in Brisbane. And he said, and I said, "Well," he said, "what are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm not sure." And he said, "Well, I'll tell you." So, fairy godmother had sort of arrived. And so he said, "Come and have dinner with us tonight." And so round I went. I was living on my own at that stage. Laurie hadn't come over. So come and have dinner. So he said, "This is what you do. You go to Scotland, you get a job there in Scotland as an ENT registrar. You sit the Scottish second part, which is you won't find it difficult at all, and then you've got your fellowship, and then you apply for a job in London or thereabouts, and get trained for your English fellowship, which is the one you really want. So I did exactly that. There was a job advertised in the Royal Infirmary in Edinburgh, and as a registrar in ENT, and I got that, and I sat the fellowship second part in Edinburgh, and it was not much more difficult than the surgical exam we had at the university in Melbourne. In other words, so I did that, and then there was a job advertised in Cambridge at Addenbrooke's Hospital, the original Addenbrooke's in Cambridge, which is now gone, pulled down, and I did 18 months there. Sat in the second part of fellowship in London, passed that. Oh no, I failed it the first time, passed it the second time, and came back to Melbourne.
So that was a real sliding door moment, meeting.
Bill Coleman, it was as I say, a fairy godmother. It was just, I did exactly what he told me to do, and I've told him that a couple of times. I saw him occasionally at conferences in Australia. He's a Brisbane guy, and really nice fellow, good doctor, good surgeon. And so, yeah, that made it all possible. Yeah, it's a good example of open the door and see what happens.
Yeah, that's right. And just, yeah, sometimes if you put yourself in the right position and opportunity, and you've just got to...
It'll put its hand up, yeah.
Yeah, put its hand up, that's right.
So that was really great. We loved Cambridge. It was a beautiful place to be and work. And yes, I used to ride a bicycle from the flat we had down the backs at Cambridge and across to the Addenbrooke's Hospital in Trumpington Street in the middle of Cambridge, and come home on the bike, and if it was early enough I would park the bike against King's College Chapel and go in and hear them sing Evensong. Just beautiful.
Right.
Nowadays you've got to buy a ticket and get in a queue, and
Yeah.
It's just, I was the only bloke there. I was their audience.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So you've lived through a fair bit of change in the last 88 years. So what are the major events, world events, that really stand out in your lifetime?
Yeah, well, I haven't really thought about that much, but yeah, particularly not so much in world events, but in surgical events. Ian Oceanside surgery just turned itself upside down. It's a huge change over the years that I've been in it, which has been exciting, but difficult to keep up with. I have to work pretty hard to keep up with new techniques and new equipment, and yeah. So that was an immediate big change for me. As far as world events, I was a bit oblivious to world events. There was a big recession in 2004, and I hardly noticed because medicine just went on, and your income remained fairly steady, and we didn't have Donald Trump to contend with.
So we're getting down to the finish now, but to finish up, what are you most proud of the things that you've done, achieved?
Well, these are not obvious things, but they're important to me and to medicine. I set up an ear, nose and throat head and neck surgery unit at the Alfred. I was doing a lot of head and neck surgery at the Alfred, which is, well, initially it was pretty big and grisly. Operations taking 6-7 hours. But we turned that into a separate division of ear, nose and throat. And that was timely and important and required a bit of courage, but I got a bit of support from the hospital to do that. And I think that was something in the actual medical terms that I would be most proud of.
Yep. What about in life generally? Watching Carlton win a premiership or two?
Carlton winning a few premierships. Yeah, they were good years with Rickers out of Princess Park. I've got a few regrets. Probably the greatest of those being the fact that I was so busy that I was back for 1 year where I was an assistant surgeon, and the following year I was appointed head of unit at the Alfred. You know, most people don't get that for 10 or 15 years, but it became vacant. Somebody had to do it, and I got the nod. And it was a huge break for me, a huge step forward in the practice. But a huge extra strain too, because the buck stopped with me. I had no one else to ask. And so that had negatives about it. It as I say, the buck stopped with me, and I admit I was under a lot of pressure. But I wouldn't change that.
And what are the regrets associated with that then?
Well, it impinged on the family, on my marriage, because I was out all day and half the night, the whole time. We're on call for our patients we'd operate on. We're on call 24 hours, 7 days a week. And so you never know when you're going to be called. Whereas nowadays the patients are just told if you'd operated on somebody the day before and they had a bleed from their tonsil, you ring up and they say, Dr. Arundel's not here, but please go to the Alfred Hospital or to go to Cabrini Emergency Department.
Yeah.
And that, you know, they handle these things. And so the strain is now relieved for these doctors, and I'm all for it, but it wasn't relieved for me. And I don't think I was a particularly good wife, and I'm sure I wasn't a particularly good father, but you can't have it all.
And what do you hope your children, which is me and David, and grandchildren remember about you?
Oh, I don't know, that I was a civilised bloke who had values that were right and proper. Somebody that they could perhaps try to emulate in some ways. But I don't get too sentimental over these things.
Any advice that you give future generations? So if someone in 20 years' time was to see this, or 30 years' time, longer, any advice that you'd give them, which is from your position now?
Yes, certainly, as I say, was a bit overwhelmed by the workload that I had, and the advice would be to value the present and look forward to the future. Build the future, but don't sacrifice the present.
That's good. That's that's very good. Any advice that you'd give the Carlton football team?
Well, I'm sure they're getting plenty. No, they are disappointing, I must say. Did they lose last night?
Yeah, they did, but not very much.
No, not very much.
15 points or so. Yeah,
Oh, that's not
it's
bad.
not in Fremantle.
I think that's
in
a
Fremantle.
good result.
And what about
in Fremantle?
Yeah. yeah? And what about going to the football at Princes Park in the would have been late 70s perhaps, but certainly early 80s.
Yeah, good years. We enjoyed that, and you obviously remember that.
Ah, it was fantastic. Yeah.
I remember once we were out there, and you wanted a drink or something, and I gave you 50 cents or whatever it was, and you went around to every drink store in the stand or in the whole ground, and everything they had cost a little bit more than you had. And you came back with tears in your eyes, and I was so overcome myself. Of course, I gave you plenty of money to go and get what you wanted, but it was just a genuine mistake. I hadn't realised that the inflation had
Gone up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was some good years for Carlton as well. We had a team there where in the third quarter they could do things that I haven't seen too many teams do.
Yeah, the third
since.
quarter was classic. And there were Barbie, who was the Carlton president then, the big businessman who bought IXL down
John
here.
Elliott.
John Elliott. She was his secretary.
Right.
And she could always get us seats.
Okay.
You remember going to grand final?
Yeah, I do. That was Barbie, was it? Right.
Yeah, they were mostly where they came from.
Right.
Yes, John Elliott was a rogue, but at least he provided us with football tickets.
That's right. Something came out of it.
You've got to have an angle somewhere.
Yeah, that's exactly right. No, well, that's great. So that got to the end of all my questions and discussion points here, but that's fantastic.
Good. Well, it's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. I think it's great to get it all down because I've heard just about all of that in bits. Some of it's new, but most of it's in bits, and to be able to join the dots between the different elements and streams is really, really good.
As I say, there's plenty of stuff written down, but it's a different.
Oh, it is.
It's different.
It's different, and it depends on the way in which it's written down.
And I've got a
as well.
family tree here, which you've got a copy of this somewhere.
I do. Yeah. And that's the Rundle line, is it?
Yeah. Well, this starts off with Sidney Henry Rundle of Bristol, and Sidney Henry Rundle of Waterford and Dublin, and another third Sidney Henry Rundle who went to the Beechworth after getting off the boat in Melbourne.
There's a Charles Rundle here, Charles Reeve Rundle, manager of the original bank.
He had no children.
Clearly that didn't come down to my line, no managing of no banks.
He didn't own the bank,
No,
Charlie.
no. He was a money man.
Whereas I think you probably owned a bank or two.
No, that's fantastic. I'll just